Hey everyone, Rob here from Gunfather Milsim, and today I want to talk about different CQB methods. Why is this coming up? Well, recently in Omaha, where I live, there's a new airsoft CQB place called Panoramic CQB. We haven't had an airsoft CQB location here for a really long time. I do have a review coming up in the near future of it, but for now just know it's a kind of a CQB training center that does airsoft on the side, not an airsoft place that teaches CQB on the side, if that makes sense. So a few weeks ago I was there and I did a cold run through their shoot house, and I had the owner Alex film it for me, and just to kind of promote their business a little bit. And it amazes me every time I post anything online with me doing any sort of CQB, all the freaking people that come out of the woodwork with opinions about, oh my God, that's so horrible, and oh, you would get killed for this reason and that reason, and you would die instantly in the real world. And yet 700 and some high risk search warrants later in the real world, I'm fine. So the funny thing is, all these critiques come from people with, as near as I can tell, no background, like no real world background beyond Call of Duty and maybe a little bit of military service or whatever. They generally don't know what the hell they're talking about. Yet they seem confident enough to, I mean, yeah, it's probably just YouTube trolls, but confident enough to just shit all over this thing they see. Which brought me kind of to think about different methods of CQB and how maybe they don't really vary as much as people think. So understand that although CQB theories vary, there are basically two main schools of it. All right, and I'll see if I can kind of write this down here so you guys can see. So there's basically dynamic entry on one side, and there's, I'm going to call it threshold assault, but this goes by a lot of different names. But this is basically the limited penetration, which is what I endorse, which is what I do. Dynamic entry is kind of like the stack and flow old school stuff, okay? And it is a big fan of speed, surprise, and violence of action are kind of its big things. I used to train in this early on before I was on the SWAT team, and I was just in SWAT schools in 2006 and 2008. This was the stuff we were teaching. This is bread and butter, classic SWAT stuff, early 2000s and 90s and whatnot. Stack up, breach the door, crisscross or button hook into the room, blah, blah, blah. This is still taught largely military to basic level, and a lot of law enforcement agencies around the world still teach this method. Then there's threshold assault. This is more common in the last couple decades. I learned this in 2009. It's really not revolutionary anymore, but the debate between these two schools of thought is still continuing to this day, and it actually kind of shifts back and forth. Threshold assault is less concerned with speed, surprise, and violence in action, and more about use of cover. My pen's dying. Angles, pressure, and being behaviorally compliant. I gotta spell behaviorally compliant. That's a big one. Behavior compliant means when real bullets fly at you, what does your body naturally do? What do your instincts kick in? Your lizard brain that says, oh crap, I don't want to get killed. What does it do? And generally it runs to cover and huddles up against cover because cover is safety. What it doesn't do is run through open doors that bullets are coming through. And that's one of the big weaknesses of dynamic entry, because it's not behaviorally compliant, which is one of the strengths of threshold assault. Now, which of these you use can vary quite a bit. And there's a lot of variation of threshold assault, okay? For example, the owner of Panoramic CQB, Alex, he does something called 5-step, which I've seen a lot on different YouTube videos lately. Now, although threshold assault and 5-step are technically two different CQB methods, they're 95% the same. The last little bit, that last little 5% difference, is just in how they actually address the threshold. I'm going to kind of demonstrate it here and show you what I'm talking about. Okay, I'm back with a better marker, and now I can kind of show you what I'm talking about here. Now, I didn't do the best job explaining Alex's method earlier. It's kind of a hybrid of two different things. It's a 5-step for dealing with the threshold, and it's a point of domination for dealing with what's actually inside the room. And it would basically look like this. If you get a bad guy in here, this guy's going to assess this threshold by taking kind of 5 steps around it, kind of an arcing motion, clearing as he goes. And then when it's time to make entry, this guy goes in here and this guy goes in here, and they dominate the room. Okay. Now we compare that with high threat CQB, which is what I endorse. And basically what you're going to do is focus on your threshold here, your vertical pivot point, which is going to be the edge of the door. You're going to do a narrow approach. You're going to face your cover, and you're going to do a segmented search of the room from there. So basically what we're talking about is we're either segmenting here, or we're doing a kind of a segment here and kind of a wider arc. The difference between these two is extremely limited. They're about 95% the same. It's just that last little 5% in which there's a difference. Now, for his mission set, what he was doing, slow, sneaky stuff, 1 and 2 man element, using night vision most of the time, really effective. That 5-step wide arc, really effective. For what I do on the SWAT side, where I'm working with a team and I got a stack of people around me, and I need a wingman next to me to provide long cover from threats down range, it's impractical for me to take this wide arc around that door. Also, additional elements got to come past me to clear deeper into the structure. They might have to get past me in this hall and move on down. If I'm taking this wide arc here, they can't get past me when I'm doing this. Now, are the differences between these two really that big a deal? No, it's completely manageable. And I proved it by, after we talked for a while, I said, tell you what, I'll go change the targets in the shoot house. I'll move them around, move the shoots and don't shoots and all that, and we'll work together. We've never worked together before. You're going to go first. I'll just work off you, and we'll see if we can effectively clear this shoot house, you using your method and me using mine. We'll see if we can bridge that gap between the two. And sure enough, we did. It was no problem. We learned on the fly. There were some differences, mainly for his method. It was very quiet based on using night vision and being really sneaky. So he used a lot of hand signs and touches and grabs, and hey, that's how we communicated what was going on. Contrast that with my side of things on the SWAT side, where we are very verbal. We communicate all the time. We say things like shot, moving, entering, stuff like that. Now, even though him and I were both using these two different methods of communication, we were able to manage that very easily, effectively clear the structure, shoot all the correct bad guys, etc., etc. The difference between the two methods, between his 5-step method and my high threat CQB method, was not large enough that it kept us from effectively working together. So after all this meandering, you might be asking, what is the point? The point is, while people are obsessed with determining which CQB method is best, perhaps the question they should be asking themselves is which CQB method is best for their mission, equipment, rules of engagement, etc. Because that varies from person to person, and that will vary what method of CQB you use best. In short, the method that special forces use on a raid in some third world shithole is very different than the method that I'm going to use as a SWAT operator in the United States, and is very different from the method you would use when you hear something downstairs in the middle of the night and you get up and clear your home because you think there's a criminal in it. And once again, different yet again from what you use playing local airsoft or Milsim or CQB or whatever. That's the takeaway. So that's all I got on differing CQB methods. If you're in the Omaha area and you want to check out Panoramic CQB, give them a look. They don't give me money or anything to promote their business. I just think it's a good business. And I think when you have a local CQB place, you need to support it or it goes away. Okay, so support your local businesses. If you like my content, please like, subscribe, hit the little bell. You guys know how YouTube works. Or better yet, support my content by going to diceshowtactical.com and buying some merchandise. That's my small business that I run. You can buy Gunfather Milsim patches in a variety of colors. They look just like that. Or you can buy slings. I sell a variety of bungee slings. I make them here. You can see my workbench area is right there. And I make every one of those by hand right here in my workshop. Thanks for watching.